What's up, Variant Nation? We are back from a long break. We took like almost a 2.5 week break.
Yep.
So we are kicking the new year off, 2020, with the Variant Podcast. This is going to be setting the tone, I guess.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Arris.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Welcome back.
Before we get into like all, the recapping of all the news and stuff we missed over the last 2 weeks, how was your break?
It was eventful.
It was eventful?
It wasn't as long as I thought. I actually wound up working more of the break than I hoped, but the part of the break that I did have, it was good.
Yeah,
I
watched
family and everything.
Oddly enough, I was telling my friend about this. I didn't read so many comics, as much comics as I wanted to, because that's what I do on a day to day. So I was kind of using my break to like catch up on other things I like. So I watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of movies, and I got Ultimate Alliance 3 for Christmas.
So I've
been playing the crap out of that.
My son got it as well, and he has been loving it.
He was actually...
He got a bunch of cash. Yeah, he was asking you about it,
He was asking
wasn't
me,
it?
he's like, how do you defeat the Kingpin? I'm like, what you got to do is, it's a lot of dodging, okay? A lot of dodging. The L trigger, just use it.
That's how I feel about Fallen Order.
Okay, I hadn't played that
Jedi
yet.
Fallen Order. I was playing that over the break, and that just feels like a lot of dodging and then attacking, dodging and attacking.
You're also, so we were both gifted an Oculus Quest.
Yes.
Although you got yours, mine is still on back order. I think it's going to be arriving the 22nd of this month. But you were able to play the Darth Vader game on
Vader Immortal.
Vader Immortal,
Yeah.
and I'm just, it's on the way. But
I have one chapter left.
Oh, you've done almost all the chapters.
I've done 1 and 2. I have 1 chapter left that's available because they're coming out in chapters, and they just released chapter 3. And man, it's awesome.
So I've been hearing.
It's amazing. The first time Vader walks up to you, it's so intimidating because they do it to scale.
Oh,
so
really?
He's massive. And it feels, you feel that 4-dimensional presence. And it's like you have this, because I used my noise canceling headphones too.
Right.
So it was just, I was in that world. And it was like, it's intimidating, man, when he first walks up on you.
I'm anxiously waiting. I got like 2 weeks left, I guess, till it gets here. And that's the first game I'm
the Oculus Quest in general is just such a cool system.
You know what's funny? I didn't even know the Oculus Quest was a thing. That's like how out of the loop I am with like gaming consoles and stuff. Because I say it all the time. I'm not much of a gamer at all. There's like I basically just play like the superhero games and like fighting games. So I didn't even know that the Quest was a thing until recently. And now I'm like, because it's like everything's contained. With the normal Oculus, it's like it's kind of like a system where everything's in the headset for this one.
Yeah,
and that's so I'm really excited to get my hands on that.
You should be. It's a lot of fun. It was a big hit at the house. We had family over for the holidays.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I had my mother and father-in-law.
Oh, that had to be
I had them playing it. It was I got
Were they playing the Vader game?
Days. They played Vader, and they were playing this it's a what's it called? It's a Creed Path to Glory, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's a boxing game.
Okay.
But based on Rocky.
Ooh.
So it's got the Rocky music in it and everything.
Funny.
But to see like just them fighting like with the Quest, it was hilarious.
You have to get them to do like a horror game or something. I hear those with the jump scares are like a lot of people don't even want to move.
I did
like, what's around that corner?
I did the one. There was a free one that came with it. It was for The Nun.
Ooh,
that and I put it on because I'm not big on horror, you know that,
right?
And I did it, and I was like, okay.
Was it not scary?
Just not to me because it's the same stuff. Because I feel like it's to me,
but with the noise canceling headphones and like you're in that world,
and you're just walking around, and it's like the nun pops out, and it's just like
I think my wife would literally have a heart attack.
Yeah, I guess you know what it is. It's my mindset toward it.
Okay.
If I was more willing to be like, oh, what's gonna happen? But I already kind of have a mindset of like,
Oh, so you're going into it like,
who cares? It's not scary. But yeah, so it's probably my mindset.
All right, well, I finished.
I can see why people have fun with it.
I finished The Witcher over break. I finished Watchmen because I was 4 episodes behind on that. I watched tons of movies. I started watching Hellboy, by the way, the new one. The new one. And let's just say I couldn't finish it. I love a lot of quote unquote not good movies.
Yeah.
And I love Hellboy as a character. I love the first 2. I don't want to bash anything. I didn't finish it.
Right.
That says everything.
That says everything.
It was on HBO, HBO Now on demand, and I was like, oh yeah, let me watch it. And I got 45 minutes in and turned it off. So that should tell you everything.
Yeah, that just means I won't be watching the first 45 minutes.
Although I will say the Lobster is in it, who is a character within that world. And it was kind of cool just to see him on. He wasn't on screen very long, but it was kind of cool to just see him live action. It's like, oh, I'd never thought I'd get to see that. So he was again, I didn't finish the movie, so I don't know if he comes back around on the end. But the part I saw, he was in it for like 5 minutes, and I was like, that's at least cool to see.
That's something new.
But yeah, The Marriage Story on Netflix, drama.
I didn't watch that.
I watched that as well.
See, this was my problem over the break. My break wound up being like really weird. Like I also got sick.
Oh, okay.
I think you managed to dodge the bullet, right?
I did. Well, no.
Yeah. Right.
Knock on wood.
I actually got sick Christmas week.
Oh, no.
Which sucked. It was actually the day before we were getting ready to leave. I started feeling it coming on, and then I wound up getting really sick for Christmas week. I was hacking up a lung and stuff like that. So, but my break wound up being really weird, and because of that, like I planned on doing what you did,
right,
which was catching up on watching The Witcher, catching up on Watchmen, and all that stuff. I didn't get to do any of that.
Oh man,
like I didn't get to do any of that. The only thing that I did watch is I watched half of The Irishman.
Okay.
And I did get to play some Jedi Fallen Order. And there was one other thing that I did do. Oh, I watched I watched a World War II documentary.
Oh, well, in color, right?
Yeah, in color.
I saw that last night.
It's
going to Netflix.
amazing.
Is it good?
It's amazing.
I put it in my watch list. I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, because you know how big of a history buff I am.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely was just completely enthralled by it. It was so incredible. It's footage I have never seen.
Well, they restored it in full color. It's got to be.
It's just it's the amount of footage that they were able to accumulate. Like stuff you've never seen.
People were talking, they're like, who did you know back then that this many people were recording this stuff? Like, how are they recording all of this back then? Like, now everyone's got a phone in their pocket, but back then it's like, how do you have this footage?
Well, during World War II, you knew that there were journalists.
Right.
There were war journalists just like there are now. I just didn't realize there were so many cameras involved.
Right. For real.
And they restored the color and all that stuff, and it was originally in black and white. But man, some of the footage they got from literally inside Hitler's Germany.
That's
it's
crazy.
just like, man, where did they?
That's crazy.
They were so smart in accumulating things from Germany and from Great Britain and all over the UK, even from places like Russia and the United States, and they brought all these historians and all of these. It's just really, really good. I'm not done with it, but I did watch a bunch of that.
Is it like a limited series, right?
It's I think it's one season, and it's like 8 episodes. I think it is
like hour each or something like that.
The first one I think is an hour and a half.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so they're long.
Okay,
but really, really good. So if you like history, that's a good one to pick up on.
Yeah, I definitely need to watch that. It's just it's history. So.
It's history, really good stuff. In that vein, one of the things I'm looking forward to most, actually, a movie that's just coming out this weekend in full, is 1917.
That looks really, really good.
And everybody that has seen it is like, this is as good as Saving Private Ryan.
No.
That's the words that are coming out.
That is some big words.
And that's a lofty.
Yeah, no. That's saying a lot.
I'm chomping at the bit to see.
Saving Private Ryan is like one of my favorite films of all time.
I know. We don't often get any kind of stories about World War I. Lots of stuff about World War II. We don't often get stuff about World War I.
I was telling you, actually, I was working on a project, and I was asking, because you're a big history buff, so you're my go-to when it comes to history, and I was like, there hasn't been many stories done on World War I, has there? And you're like, no, not really. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. And there's just as much to tell about World War I as there is World War II. It's just World War II, it has... From a storytelling perspective with the Axis and the Allies, it's just kind of more of, I guess, a shiny traditional story,
right?
That they can tell. But World War I has just as much. I mean, more people died in World War I than in World War II. It's
crazy. It's weird that it doesn't. We even get like movies in Pearl Harbor and stuff like that, but World War I for some reason doesn't. It's not talked about as much.
And there's a lot to tell. There's a lot of stories untapped there. So I'm really happy to see them give that some spotlight. But I can't wait to see that, especially because it's a perspective film.
Yeah.
In other words, it was shot in the trenches from the perspective of the people involved. So
I'm excited.
I'm very excited for that one.
I saw because I knew of it, but then that's another movie I saw. I went to the theater this past Thursday to see Knives Out, which has got Captain America in it, Chris Evans.
Right, yeah.
But that's also another really good movie. So if you guys are looking for another movie to watch, that movie. I was telling you earlier, just before we hop on the podcast, I went to see a 7:40 showing. It was sold out on a Thursday night.
That's pretty remarkable.
On a Thursday night, so I had to see it 10:30.
At least here in the Dallas area, people seem to be out in force this past weekend, man.
It's been crazy out because, I'm so used to like those type of movies like Star Wars, Marvel movies. Like those get sold out because those are the $1 billion movies now. But I didn't think something like Knives Out was going to be sold out. But to my surprise, on a Thursday, I understand when everyone was still on break, but it was still like a Thursday night.
I think everybody was trying to get in that last bit of break before heading back to the normal day-to-day grind.
But with that, something we saw right before we took our hiatus here on Variant, the Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. And in the same week, it was the Rise of Skywalker and the conclusion of The Mandalorian. Two very different things, very different events. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I don't know about you, I'm not going to say very much about the Rise of Skywalker for the reason of I don't have a ton of positive things to add to the conversation.
So what you're telling everyone is you didn't really like it that much.
I have a lot of issues with it. There were things I liked and there was a lot I didn't like. But I will say this, the things I didn't like have more to do with the trilogy as a whole.
Oh, I 100%
and
agree with
how
that.
this capped off the trilogy as a whole just kind of closed off that loop.
Okay.
So it's a lot more about the trilogy as a whole than it is about the individual movie. The individual movie, in my opinion, it was fun. At times it was slow and a bit choppy. But it was fun at times, had some very cool scenes. It was very pretty to look at.
For sure.
It had some fun elements to it. It had some redeeming qualities. They clearly tried to put in there to redeem some things from The Last Jedi that people, OG Star Wars fans were unhappy with. They tried to do that in some areas. My opinion, I think it was a ship that sailed.
Right.
And I just don't think that it was anything they were able to bounce back. Now we're hearing all of this rumors about all this cut footage and these cut scenes that made it a different movie or had more exposition.
Have you seen release the Abrams cut?
Yeah,
that's a new thing. It seems like,
and if that starts, so help me,
it's the 2020 version of the Snyder cut.
Oh my God! But I will say though, if there is an extended cut that gives more, Disney will release it. In my opinion, Disney, I think is. It's a totally different situation too.
Right.
It's not the same as what happened with the Justice League.
No.
So I think that if that is the fact, that when they release it on Blu-ray, we'll get the extended director's cut of the film with more scenes and stuff, and that they'll use that to sell. Because the other thing too is that the numbers for this film, while they've been high and it's made a lot of money, I think it's almost $900 million now or something like that. But it's not as much.
I think it's still less than The Last Jedi.
But it's way behind even The Last Jedi, which was way behind The Force Awakens. So each film has taken a large drop.
Which is kind of shocking to me because I even told you, I thought purely because it's the end of all 9 films, the end of this trilogy, the end of the Skywalker saga, I thought based on that alone, love it or hate it, you have to see it one way or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a little shocking to me as far as box office numbers.
Well, one, I think it's the power of the people that said, we don't like what Disney's doing with Star Wars, and so we're going to prove it at the box office. We're going to show it at the box office. I don't fall into that camp. You know that. We've talked about that extensively. You don't either. It's like, look, it's different. We might not like all the things they did, but, hey, it's just it's a movie. It'll change. They're going to do stuff different. But I think the other thing too is as far as like that whole thing, like we talked about in previous podcasts of the conclusion of the Skywalker saga, I think a lot of people like me, we don't see it as that. We see the conclusion of the Skywalker saga as the Return of the Jedi, because what they did with this trilogy, it really isn't. And I'm going to say right now too, spoiler. We're going to talk a little bit of spoilers about...
this movie's been out for almost a month at this point.
Just, it's been out, but, I'll say we're going to say a couple of spoilers for both this and like The Mandalorian and a couple of other things. So, we'll tell you anything else, but spoilers for Mandalorian and The Rise of Skywalker. But for The Rise of Skywalker, like the big thing for me, and this is the only negative thing that I'll really point out specifically, is how they clickbaited the entire audience with the title of The Rise of Skywalker. And at the end, that just winds up to be Rey.
Right.
Just taking the name. She's a Palpatine. And we find out she's a Palpatine, and she takes the name Skywalker at the end in the very last minute as if to say like, I'm Michael Jordan too.
Right.
And that whole spiel. And it was like that particular thing or dislike it, whatever. I personally thought it was just kind of like, what? Why? I personally, that wasn't my thing. But the big thing was you made the title of the film The Rise of Skywalker and then sold it as the conclusion to the Skywalker saga. And then that was that was the Skywalker part.
Yeah,
that was the most catfish, clickbaity thing they could have done, and it was just like it made it just fall really flat for me.
Yeah, I'm of two worlds with that thing. Like, for sure, catfish 100%. But I'm like in the middle where I'm like, I see what they're trying to do. Like, like anyone could be of great importance or power. So, but then the nerd in me is still like, yeah, but like agrees with you, or I'm like, but that's like a cop out.
No,
but that goes back again. That's not my thing with the movie. It's the trilogy. I said it in my spoiler-free review that went up like 2 weeks ago now or whatever. But my problem isn't with this movie per se, because if you were just gonna ask me about this movie, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. That's just it was okay movie. You know what I mean? Like, for me, if I rate this trilogy from favorite to least favorite, it would be Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, and The Last Jedi. But it's just the lack of the legacy characters or the importance they put on them towards the end. You know what I mean? Like, they killed all of them off.
Right. In very dismissive fashion.
Yeah, it's like, I don't have a problem with that. One of my, Game of Thrones, one of my favorite shows of all time, is like they were killing characters off, important characters off like every other episode. So that's not a problem I have. It's just, I feel like, because again, this is what I said in my review. So Skywalker, Luke, Han, all these characters, they're not only from the 6 movies. They're from the comics. They're from like all the cartoons. So they have this rich history.
Right.
We know them many forms of media, video games, cartoons, comics, the movies, all that stuff. And then you bring these new characters that no one's ever seen before and try to make them like the most important part of the saga, or not the most important part, but like, this is the new, you know what I mean? If you're gonna end the Skywalker saga, why not end it with
a bang,
and the Skywalkers? Right. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like putting these new characters in the Skywalker saga was just a way to be like, oh, you remember this Skywalker saga. Everyone's going to see it this way. Like, if they were to do a new trilogy with these characters, they know not as many people would be as interested. Yeah. So that is kind of my problem, where I feel like it's happening a lot with a lot of franchises, where they're taking these existing properties and putting new characters in it just because they know that people will see it no matter what, because it's an established property already.
Right.
So I don't know why you just wouldn't have done a new trilogy, because to me it felt like this was very forced into the Skywalker thing.
Right.
Saga, because like you said, Return of the Jedi is very much that's it.
Right.
But you still could have continued it, but they did it a service to Luke, I would say even Han, and then they changed.
I thought they treated Leia fairly.
Yeah,
Leia obviously was given the spotlight.
And she lasted the longest too.
And then Carrie Fisher passed away, unfortunately, and so she wasn't able to be given. But even with her death, I think that Leia, they gave her a serviceable end.
And Chewbacca apparently too. Chewbacca.
Yeah, Chewbacca was the last man standing.
He lasted all the way till the end. I think the whole Luke thing and Palpatine thing, I think, are the two biggest things where I was like, because I know a lot of people were saying that it would have been too predictable. Like, you have the half saying it would have been too predictable if Luke saved the day and you saw him all powerful. But I think that me and a lot of fans, we wanted to see that. We never saw that.
Right.
Much like we never seen Vader like completely in his prime.
Right.
We've never seen Luke completely in his like prime. And I would love to have seen him like wreck shit. Kind of like at the end of The Last Jedi, except like for real and not just like, a projection or hologram of himself.
Right.
So,
and I think that's the part that bums Star Wars fans out, is that with the conclusion of this trilogy, you kind of left feeling like we're never going to get that, at least not with Luke Skywalker. I think we will eventually get it with Darth Vader.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But he's too profitable of a character, I think. But with Luke Skywalker, how do you recast Luke Skywalker? Especially after the failure of Solo, right?
Yeah.
The film. So it's like, again, like going back to this movie,
you don't use the Irishman technology with the aging process.
Maybe if it gets good enough, they might, but it won't be for a long, long while.
Right.
But again, like you were saying, it's really the trilogy as a whole, and it goes back to something that we've talked about many times, which is that when you set out on a story, I don't care if it's a comic book, a film, a television series, particularly if you're going to go off on a film series like a trilogy, you have to know the end. You have to know where that story's going. You got to know where you're starting, you got to know your middle, and you need to know your end. But specifically, you need to know where it ends, right? And this movie just really highlighted the fact that they set out on this trilogy and they really didn't have a course. They didn't know where this was all going. And the saddest part for me, and this is kind of rung true in recent kind of resurrections of franchises, is where Hollywood kind of feel, they take this approach of to do something new and to move something into a new a franchise or a particular cast of characters into a new generation, we have to undo the previous stories. Right. We have to get rid of or dismiss the previous beloved characters or storylines and somehow retcon them. And I just don't agree with that approach. I think that's short-sighted because you can have both.
For sure.
And in Star Wars and with this trilogy, I feel like the missed opportunity was that they could have done both. And particularly Rian Johnson. Again, this is just my opinion. There was a lot of people that loved The Last Jedi. I saw a lot of people out in force that were angry about the Rise of Skywalker because they were saying that the Rise of the Last Jedi was so good and Rian Johnson set it on a brand new course, and J.J. Abrams undid all that. And that's one side of the coin, but you have the other side of the coin, which is that people didn't like the people that didn't like what Rian Johnson did. They didn't like how he, the whole laser sword routine, where it was just this, like the line that he put in the script with Kylo Ren, where he said, get rid of the past, kill it if you have to.
Right.
And that was kind of the approach. That was him saying his approach to Star Wars as he was trying to kill Star Wars past and start something brand new, which is fine. But again, I just don't I don't follow the approach of you have to, retcon the previous stories in some way or treat it so, flippantly or dismissively to be able to move forward. They could have done both. They could have given the legacy characters a big out, a big go, have them go out with a bang, wrap up the Skywalker saga in a way that left them like, in a really exciting way, but also introduce something brand new.
I think that does a disservice. I think that was one of my big problems with the trilogy as a whole too. It does a disservice to all those characters 100%. That we grew up with. It's
if you think,
why are you trying to continue the saga if you're gonna not, put these characters at the forefront or continue their legacy? You're basically just trying to end it. It's like, why to me? But I told you before, I'm also kind of like I'm burnt out on this whole new trilogy thing because I feel like everyone's been beating it we've been talking about it a lot because we've been doing so much Star Wars stuff towards the end of the year. But I'm just glad this trilogy's over.
I think that's kind of the sentiment of a lot of people.
Love it or hate it,
and that's kind of where I'm at. That's why I say I don't want to say too much negative. Because like I said, there were fun moments of the film. It was a Star Wars movie. It was very pretty to look at. There was fun moments, but in the end, it was just kind of like a reminder of some missed opportunities, I thought, to close out the Skywalker saga. But with that said, I think now it's just got to be about the future of Star Wars. And the Mandalorian
is definitely the future of Star Wars.
And things that we're hearing coming about the Obi-Wan series, with now that they're talking about they're casting a young Luke Skywalker for the series. You couple that with what we've seen from The Mandalorian, and I think the future of Star Wars still looks really good. I think that the Mandalorian is already giving us some great stuff.
The future of Star Wars is TV, it seems. You got Clone Wars for now. Season 7, and then Obi-Wan, Season 2 for Mandalorian, and then there's a third mystery one, apparently.
We don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah, probably Ahsoka is what I'm rooting for, hopefully. I think that would be dope.
We're hearing there's rumors of Ahsoka, there's rumors of Dr. Aphra.
That could be cool.
Any of those could be cool.
I want to see a white and yellow lightsaber.
My expectation is that it is going to be something that's from the newer storylines.
It would make sense to do it that way, just because they've been doing a lot of older stuff.
Yeah.
So plus, again, I think Ahsoka would be super dope because we've only seen her in animated form. Yeah. So seeing her live action,
you did hear her voice at the end of The Rise of Skywalker,
which that scene was really. There was a lot of cool scenes. Again, I didn't hate the movie. It's just
neither
overall.
did I.
But Ahsoka, because she has, first of all, she was raised and trained with Anakin, so you get all that. You get some probably Vader stuff in there, depending what period of her life they chose to go.
Yeah,
that could be really cool. And she's just a badass in general. She has the normal size lightsaber and then a shorter one. And her fighting style is really cool. So I have her poster in my office. So I'm kind of hoping for that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what it is. Dr. Aphra is a cool character, but Team Ahsoka.
I think a lot of people agree with you. I would agree with you. I think a lot of people are pulling for an Ahsoka series. She's a fan loved character. She's a fan favorite for sure.
For sure. And Disney Plus has, thus far, the 2 ones they've announced have been male leads. So I feel like they are going to want to mix it up and probably do a female lead. And I think that's the perfect one to go after.
I would agree. And I think, for me, as far as Disney Plus goes, especially after seeing them wrap up Mandalorian, the Mandalorian closed out just epic. The final episode.
Spoilers, because I know I'm gonna have to mention spoilers for that.
For sure, spoilers for Mandalorian from here out. The final episode of The Mandalorian was my favorite episode of the entire season. It was directed by Taika Waititi. No surprise there, I suppose. But it was fantastic all the way through. The action was amazing.
The stormtrooper bit, where they're shooting the
target practice.
They can't shoot it.
Hilarious. I mean, just getting to see even stormtroopers interact that way is just so different.
Did it not make you want a stormtrooper show?
Yeah,
I would watch
like
the
a buddy cop series.
Dude, I would watch the crap out of that. That would be really funny.
So
could you imagine if it was like Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds under there? They were voicing the stormtrooper. That would be so much fun.
Well, we got our first look at the Mandalorian with his helmet off.
Yeah, the way they did that,
which was fantastic,
awesome.
We broke through his issue with droids, and then the end where we see the villain break through the TIE fighter with
a darksaber.
The darksaber
is that. I don't know about you, but as soon as it poked through, I knew automatically. Because
same.
The glow it has is so
unique,
so distinct and unique. I was like, no way, there is. And then you pop it, he comes all the way out. You're like, oh my. What was cool about it too is it looked like exactly like the one from the animated like Clone Wars and Rebels and all that stuff.
Like it.
Because Dave Filoni is the one who introduced it in those cartoons and stuff. So he's like, yeah, I got this. We've done this before. The sound, just so good.
It was amazing, and what a way to close out the season, and what a setup for season 2.
But that also means they're going to get into talking about like who made the darksaber, how did he come in possession? I forget the guy's name who
Tar Vizsla?
Tar Vizsla, is that the character at the end of who has it? Tar Vizsla?
Oh, you're talking about I thought you meant the one who originally had it.
The guy who plays Gus in Breaking Bad, his character in the show.
I can't remember his character's name.
He's going to be the villain for season 2. The guy who has the
big villain. He's the big bad.
That guy, that actor is awesome.
He got introduced at the end of episode 7.
Yeah. But I want to know how he got it.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to get into
Well, they do talk a little bit about how he led the charge to invade Mandalore.
Mando does talk about it
for the Empire and all that kind of stuff. And he knew all of them.
But that was, the darksaber was originally a Mandalorian who I guess became a Jedi, and that was who made his version of a lightsaber, and it's the only one. Yeah. Like there's not like dark sabers, there's a dark saber.
Right. And it's a big symbol of power for the Mandalorians.
For sure.
That was like a mind-blowing moment for me. So I was like super
I didn't see that coming. But it's so funny. So many times this happens to me where it's like that is so obvious when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because the show is about Mandalorians. And that the darksaber is so, tied close to like the Mandalorians and stuff like that. I don't know. I didn't even like think of that.
And Filoni has used it so
many times. I was almost like disappointed in myself. How did I not see that coming? But I'm glad I didn't, because I got the little kid moment. I was like, oh, this is darksaber.
I was just so enthralled with that series all the way through.
TIE Fighter too, by the way. Did you notice when it landed, how the wings fold like that?
So
I was
dope.
like, that is really cool too.
So dope. I'm gonna watch the series again.
Right.
I loved The Mandalorian so much. And it was, for me, I guess it was because, there has been so much surrounding the trilogy that this was just like a fun break.
It was
from all of the controversy.
A breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it was just like, let's just get back to fun Star Wars. Because everyone wrong. I personally found like The Force Awakens was a lot of fun and stuff like this, but Mandalorian also was just so fresh and new, while still staying
and it
true
had
to
so
the
many
original feeling of
clear
Star Wars.
Nods to the fandom, like
lots
on purpose.
Lots of olive branches.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was a ton of fun. I loved The Mandalorian all the way through.
With that, I guess we could go into comics now. Let's talk about some comics.
Yeah, and the year started off pretty solid.
Literally the first, the Wednesday?
January 1st,
First was a Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So New Comic Book Day, one of the biggest issues we got that everyone's talking about is Donnie Cates Thor.
Yep, Thor number 1.
We both read it. And I will say I enjoyed it, but did, as far as the first issue goes, I didn't like it as much as some of his other stuff. Not against the first issue, but a lot of his other first issues, like Carnage issue, Absolute Carnage 1, Thanos, Venom, Guardians of the Galaxy, I did enjoy a lot. I feel like I didn't like this one as much as those. I will say, though, I am more partial to like Spider-Man and Thanos because of the Avengers and stuff like that. I like Thor, but I'm not like a massive Thor fan by any means. But I did think, I guess we do have to talk about spoilers. There's no way to really talk about this without spoilers.
No,
right?
none.
Yeah. Okay. So
spoilers for Thor #1.
So the big thing with Donnie Cates Thor issue 1 is it takes place after War of the Realms. Right. So Thor is now like the new king of Asgard. All that stuff. He's in control of everything. They rebuilt it. All that fun stuff. And then
he's New Odin. Basically.
He's New Odin. Yeah. And then by the end of the issue. Well, in the middle of the issue, we find out like there's basically this big plague that's destroying all the universe. It's gonna destroy all life.
Called Black Winter.
The Black Winter. Yeah, it's got like they say it's got many names, right? Yeah. The Star Plague, all this fun, dark, twisted stuff.
I also thought it was cool that they explained that it's the element that actually destroyed Galactus's world.
And the
that
first
he was
time,
the only one that escaped.
And the first time when in his human form, he couldn't see it because he was a human mind. And the second time, he realized like what would bring his end, and that end would be Thor. So long story short, he's like, that can't happen. He basically zaps Thor, and the last page of the issue, we see Thor is now a herald to Galactus.
The Herald of Thunder.
Herald of Thunder, which explains how he got his arm back, his new suit. Because everyone's like, why does he look like that? And that explains everything, which I think is really, really interesting to see how that's going to play out. But I was more excited to see Cosmic Ghost Rider there because he was one of his heralds.
Right.
And I'm like, how is that going to play with Thor? Like, are they going to interact more? I want to see it because I'm a big fan of Cosmic Ghost Rider.
That's what I really liked about it is you could tell that this first issue was a lot about restoring some things and restoring Thor back to kind of pre-War of the Realms events and Jason Aaron's run. Like for instance, they gave him his hand back and things like that. Because even they were even showing him to where he was just kind of feeling fatigued and he was even having a hard time lifting Mjolnir and things like that. But yeah, I feel like this first issue was about kind of restoring some things and restoring Thor back to like, power in certain ways and kind of rejuvenating him. So I am very interested to see where it goes from here because I thought Jason Aaron did a really good job. And
I think most people would say Jason Aaron's going to have one of the best Thor runs like ever. Like it's going to be like almost like a killing joke for Thor.
I thought he did a great job. I think he made Thor really interesting.
And he's been on it so long.
Yeah. And he did some really cool stuff. And now I kind of love the idea of him being a herald, Thor being a herald of Galactus at least, but also with Galactus looking out his side eye at Thor because he's worried about Thor.
He's like, I got to keep you close. It's basically like keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
I kind of love that setup, so I'm really curious to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I will say I think it is something to be said that he is tying everything he's done together. Yeah. So that's cool. So Cosmic Ghost Rider is a character he created, so now he's in here because in that he's another one of herald for Galactus as well. And then Null is going to appear somewhere. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Well, he just broke that whole thing loose.
For sure. So that's going to tie into the grand scheme of things. I guarantee you, like, Null is probably going to have something to do with this, the Black Winter or something in some way or another. Yeah, for sure. So that'd be really interesting.
Okay, yeah. Actually, I don't know why I didn't think of that before. That's probably exactly what it is.
So that could be really cool. And then he'll probably tie that to, like, the origin of Galactus a little bit, which will be pretty dope. So the thing I like about Donnie Cates so much is he basically is like, you could tell he's just a fanboy, like the big kid who's like, it would be cool if Thor was the Herald of Galactus. It'd be cool if Punisher was Ghost Rider. It'd be cool if and he does all these things that like as a kid you're like, it'd be dope, but he's actually doing it.
He's getting to do it.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see where it goes from here. So I did enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's also setting up just maybe another fun year for Marvel Comics.
Although I will say he's got, because just by taking over Thor, like anything, when you take over a beloved title, like when you come off like Jason Aaron, who's been doing so good on Thor, when you're following up something like that, he's got some big shoes to fill though, because everyone's by nature just going to compare it. Yeah. So that even like me, where I did enjoy it, I'm still like, I still like the Spider-Man stuff and the Venom stuff more. So I'm still like, I feel like it's not fair, but it's kind of just happens as a fan because you're reading like this run that's been so good, and then all of a sudden it's under new hands, so you're like, you better live up, because I've been giving my money to this book for years and I want it to still be good. So, but I think it's gonna be fine. He's got some.
These
great
are all
ideas.
very capable, really talented writers. So I think
Donnie Cates is like their Marvel's golden boy right now for sure. So,
and they're giving him plenty of toys to play with,
because that guy's selling books. Anything he touches. So they're like, how about this? I want to see him on Cap. I think that would be cool. I would like to see him on Captain America.
I wonder if they're gonna let him start to integrate, various members of the Avengers and things like that.
Well, Captain America and Iron Man were very briefly, but maybe
that's
we'll
what I'm
saying.
More
Avengers
we start
stuff
seeing
in here.
them more integrate, and I wonder if this will eventually bleed into Avengers somehow.
What if because they are Marvel DC, they're like 2 years out as far as planning. What if the end goal is like 2021, Donnie Cates Avengers or something like that?
Yeah, it's possible,
right?
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's stepping stones to him creating like a major event, kind of like what Scott Snyder did with the Dark.
Good for him, man. He's a local like us. So he's from Austin, so he's only like 2 hours from us.
Yeah.
So good for you, Donnie.
Good old
good
Texas boy.
Yeah. But let's see. We got lots of comic rumors over the break, especially
rumors
for the MCU.
Circulating.
Yes, lots. We got some Blade rumors going on. Apparently, one of the big rumors is that the Moon Knight may possibly be making his MCU debut in the Blade film that's going to come out,
which would be a really. I just don't know. I would have to think it would be the other way around. I'm not sure about that rumor because Moon Knight. They're looking to move forward on Moon Knight pretty quick.
Yeah, but since it's so dark, like Blade obviously is like going to go into that horror element of the MCU.
We don't even have a release date for Blade.
We don't, but neither do we for Moon Knight.
They're talking about possibly by the end of 2020, early 2021, we might get.
But is that a rumor or is that
that's coming
official?
Out of Marvel?
Really?
Yeah,
but
because they're in the process of casting, and there's rumors coming out about the Moon Knight series that we might actually see Dracula.
I did hear about that,
and I think dope. Werewolf by Night.
That would be awesome. Yeah, but see that right there
tells you that might, but I think it might be the other way around. I think we might get Moon Knight first, and then he might bleed into the Blade. So he might appear in Blade, but I think we might get Moon Knight first, and then so maybe Blade will make an appearance first inside the Moon Knight series.
Either way, seeing Blade and freaking Moon Knight together.
Yeah.
That I almost feel like I want to know how they're going to do that movie, because I feel like that by nature that could be a very rated R movie, because they're both extremely extremely violent. They're probably not because Disney and they want making a rated R.
Although Ryan Reynolds did say that he's developing Deadpool 3.
He did, but that's complete. I feel like that'll be their one-off thing. But I think I was thinking they might finally do, which I think would be hilarious. What I wanted them to do from the beginning is make a PG-13 Deadpool movie, but have him censored and have Ryan Reynolds be yelling at Disney and Iger being like for censoring him, because that would just be hilarious.
Yeah, just the fourth wall, just making fun of Disney for not letting
Disney buys Fox and everything goes to the know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be funny.
So
I think either way, they cast Mahershala Ali for Blade,
and hopefully they end
that. I mean, it's just. And no matter what they do, that's going to be freaking
I think
awesome.
Daniel Radcliffe was apparently rumored for Moon Knight.
I just saw that.
Daniel Radcliffe and Shia LaBeouf was the one before that.
A few days ago, and I was like, I don't know.
You don't think so? I think that would be cool.
It'll definitely be unique.
I'd rather Shia LaBeouf, because Shia LaBeouf, I'm a fan of Shia LaBeouf.
I will just see Harry Potter the entire time.
You wouldn't see freaking Louis Stevens from Even Stevens?
I don't know, because Shia broke out of that. Like Harry Potter is so iconic. But seriously, if he does land that, could you imagine? How lucky do you have to be? First, you're Harry Potter. You grow up. Everyone knows you as Harry Potter.
They just call you Harry, yeah.
Yeah. And then you land a role in the MCU. You're done. You are set for life.
He's already set for life like 10 times over, but yes, to your point, to infinity.
Like he could go to like 16 different Comic-Con types.
Man.
Yeah,
but Daniel Radcliffe is a very good actor, though. So I would be curious. I'd be curious. But
I would love to see him, because he hasn't done much since Harry Potter. I would love to see him.
If those rumors are true, that just tells you they're going for someone younger. It seems like late 20s, early 30s.
And it very much seems like they're looking to do something really different. If the rumors are true, and there's a lot of rumors about Dracula and Werewolf by Night and Blade and all that stuff.
It
definitely seems like they're looking to do something very different with it as well.
When doing Moon Knight, though, I just want them to make it period piece a bit, at least like where when Khonshu was introduced, stuff like that.
Yeah, we see like the origins.
Because we haven't gotten that. Could you imagine like
awesome.
A mummy type movie, but for the MCU, but it's like a period piece, and then it's brought halfway through to modern times? That would
almost
be awesome.
Like Marvel's version of the classic monsters.
Oh my! Don't tease me.
That could be crazy.
Oh man, that would be
with all that nuts. Egyptian lore and everything. I mean, that could be just so fun.
And then even
you know how I feel about Egyptian mythology
for sure.
and Egyptian history, so that would be like.
But then even if they went like old school with like Blade, like from his actual like old school black and white comics, like just that noir feel, because that could very well lend to that classic Universal Monsters feel,
almost
as well.
Like Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah, but
as Blade.
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited for all that stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of fun stuff coming out of Marvel. A lot of fun rumors. We'll see which ones are true. But this year we start getting
WandaVision got bumped up. You see that? That's this year too?
Yes, that's later this year.
That's crazy.
So we've got Falcon Winter Soldier coming in, I think it's spring, right?
Yes, I believe so.
And late spring. And then we've got WandaVision coming, I think, later in the year.
Disney Plus has got a solid slate this year because I got Clone Wars Season 7, which end of February.
Yeah, that's coming soon.
Then, like you said, the two Marvel shows, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision. And they have something, and
Mandalorian Season 2 comes in the fall.
Season 2. And then, of course, the Lizzie McGuire sequel.
Oh, yeah, Liz McGuire, I can't wait.
I'm telling you, I'm going to watch it. I'm definitely watching it.
That's all you.
But I finished the Watchmen. I finished it. You didn't get a chance to finish it, did you?
No. So you're gonna. I left off. I actually have not watched another episode since. What was the episode title?
Episode
Glass
5.
Man.
The Looking Glass.
The Looking Glass. I'm sorry. Yeah. Glass Man.
Mirror Man.
Yeah, The Looking Glass. So I think it was episode 5 or
5. Yeah.
So that was the last episode that I watched.
Okay, so I won't go
still
spoilers.
have not seen. I'm gonna watch the rest of it probably over the next week or so.
Okay, so I finished it. I won't give spoilers, but I will say I am very 50-50 with the series as a whole.
Yeah.
Very, very 50-50. Like, I liked the first because, if you go back and listen to old podcasts, I was a big fan of the first 2, 3, 4, even first half of the season, really. First 5 episodes I really enjoyed. Then it kind of fell off for me. It just felt like... they did. The thing that's weird about this series is it literally follows the comic books to the T. To the T. Like literally the original Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons Watchmen novel, and then even the before Watchmen comics that came out around the New 52. Like literally in one of the episodes, Ozymandias literally said, or Ozymandias. I say Ozymandias, but a lot of people are like Ozymandias, tomatoes, whatever. He literally gives his origin from issue 1 of his before Watchmen comic. Like literally he flat out says like, my parents died, they gave me all their wealth, but I gave it away to prove that you can achieve greatness from nothing.
Right.
And that is verbatim his origin given to us before Watchmen issue 1. So I'm like, wow, this is literally like, this could technically be a comic book, right? Like you could kind of think of it as a comic sequel to that if you wanted to in this weird way, because it literally follows everything from the comics. So with that said, since they were doing it that way, I was kind of looking at it that way. And one of the biggest changes, they basically changed the whole entire universe with what they set up for Hooded Justice. Like that changes everything, and even the creation for the Watchmen. That's what I'll say that. And I don't know how I felt, but I feel like it didn't necessarily need the sequel, I guess. I don't know. It's really, I'm tiptoeing around it because I don't want to give spoilers. It's hard to talk about without spoilers, but they basically with this series changed the crux for why the Watchmen became the Watchmen, is what I'll say.
Gotcha.
So
I'm going to watch it so we can talk about it open and freely in detail next week. I'll watch it. I'm going to watch it this week, but it sounds very much like you kind of landed where I started heading after episode 4. Because I remember I told you, I started getting a vibe of like, there's something about this that's starting to lose my interest. Just as far as the storylines, how I started feeling a direction.
Right.
And I started going, I don't know, and it just started kind of, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I'm really curious to go finish it and see.
Now with that said too, like the show is still very well made. Acting is great,
Sure.
cinematography, like the production is great. It's just like, I don't know. It's kind of like the before Watchmen thing. I wasn't like a big fan of that either. It's like, stop going back to like, you know what I mean? Like Alan Moore definitely is a fan of the people. They're changing everything he's done. I think the biggest problem for me is this. Will I'll say it's not a spoiler. Is what they did with the end of the series and like Hood of Justice and the Minutemen and everything definitely isn't what Alan Moore intended. And I'm a purist. I'm a comic book purist. So for me, I'm like, that wasn't what these characters were intended for. You're just using them to do your own message or your own thing. So, you know, tomatoes. I'm sure a lot of people, Comic Tom loves the series. You know, he's a good friend of ours, loves it. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. I say it all the time. I wish I liked everything. Why would I not want to like something? And again, I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just very 50-50 for me. I think I'd give it like 5.5 out of 10 if I have to, because I'm literally like 50-50. So wow. I'm like, because I really like the first half, and then the second half kind of fell off for me. And then also I thought Dr. Manhattan, just the face paint for me looked a little cheesy, because they basically just painted him blue. And I liked the way they did it more in Zack Snyder's Watchmen. That was one thing that did get spoiled for me. Yeah, I think it was everywhere for me too. Actually, so I was just like, oh, okay. And it wasn't. I was surprised, but I was like, okay, that makes sense once I saw like the picture of him. I will say though, there is more to that than you think, because that's cool. I need to finish it before it completely gets spoiled. But the other show is The Witcher. Yes. Now I did watch the first episode of The Witcher. Okay. And you and I talked about that. You know, you watched the entire season. I did. Okay, so for me, I saw the first episode of The Witcher. And after the first episode, it was not bad. Some of the special effects, I was a little shocked at, that it looked a little bit iffy. Right. But it wasn't bad. It just, I guess it wasn't what I thought it was going to be in a way. Okay. Which that's on me. That's just me just projecting onto the show. And so I wasn't, it didn't grab my attention. Now, that, to be fair, again, I was also sick that week. Okay. I was sick and tired and was not in the best frame of mind. So I got to watch it again, and I'm going to watch the whole season. Right. But you liked it, yes? I did. I enjoyed it. Now, the thing with this series is everyone's going to automatically compare it to Game of Thrones. They're like, this is Netflix's Game of Thrones. That's not a fair comparison. That's not fair at all. And it's not. I mean, just because, there's, wizards and mages and it's fantasy based does not mean and to be Game fair, we did speculate that this going to be Netflix's Game of Thrones? So we kind of did make that comparison ourselves, but it isn't a fair comparison. It is not, because once you're watching it, you can totally tell it's a completely different vibe. And I will say, I knew nothing about The Witcher going in. Like, I didn't read the books. I didn't play the game. So like, I'm not a purist by any means. I didn't know what I was getting into. But so for the first, it's 8 episodes. For the first 4 or 5 episodes of the season, I was like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? Like, I didn't understand what was because they would just. Now, I'm all about like telling things out of order, or even not just asking a lot of questions without answers. First half of Watchmen did that. Right. A lot of shows do that, and it actually brings a lot to it, because you're like intrigued. You're like, well, what the freak's going on here? I gotta watch the next episode. But I felt like originally the way they were doing it for the first 4 episodes is like, that just feels awkward. Like, why are we here? Or is this a different point in time? What is that character? You didn't even say that. And keep in mind, these character names are really weird. They're not like Tom and like Matt and like Kelly. They're like, like freaking, I don't even know. I don't even remember. Ganondorf. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So I'm like, and they say the names once and you're supposed to know who that is now. Right. But by the end of the series, they did, if you stick to it, they do a good job tying it up. And you're like, oh, that's why she's important. Oh, that's why that happened. But you have to finish. You can't just watch like 3 episodes and be like, well, I give up. I don't know what's going on. Like, you got to follow through. You got to battle through. Right. Okay. That's fair. So I did enjoy it overall. Henry Cavill, I'm a fan of him. Yeah. He, Superman, he was great in Mission Impossible. I'm just a fan of him in general. I think he did a good job as The Witcher. I love his whole story arc, how he's tied to. I even liked his voice, even though some would think it's a little cheesy and stuff, which, to be fair, but I think that's kind of its charm in a sense for me personally. I think with this, they're kind of going for that, where some of even the scenes or banters back and forth do seem a little like, not soap opera like, but more like not premiere television, more like something that could be just on normal cable TV, if that makes sense.
Right.
But I think it works in the end. And I think definitely going into season 2, because this season was all set up, especially if you know nothing about The Witcher. Right. They're like, this is the character, this is why she's important, this is why he's important, this is why they will or will not come together. At the end, you're like, oh, wow. And season 2 is going to go off running.
That's probably why they did it that way, because I would say most people probably don't know much about The Witcher.
And my friend is really big on The Witcher, and he said that this first season is 2 books. So they did 2 books in one season.
Okay.
So, which, if he's wrong, I don't know anything about The Witcher outside the show.
We apologize.
So, yeah,
anyway.
but that's what he told me. So, yeah.
Okay. So, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I'm going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to watch the first episode actually again.
Okay.
Now that I'm in a better frame of mind, I'm gonna watch the whole thing, and then we'll have a more conversation like the Watchmen. Maybe next week.
One more thing I do want to add though is there's a fight sequence. I think in the second episode.
How many episodes is it?
8.
8. Okay.
8. It might have been the first episode actually. Second episode. I don't know. There's a fight sequence with The Witcher, Henry Cavill. So dope.
Really?
Because he has powers as well, and he uses his sword as well as like force pushes, so to speak.
Right.
Oh man, I was like that. It was just really well shot.
There was a brief fight scene at the end of episode 1 that was pretty cool, where he goes through and he to get after that one girl.
Maybe that's the one we're talking. So it was episode 1 where
he just
does
tears
like that
through
finger
people.
thing.
Yeah.
So dope.
He just tears through people.
But he's just so intimidating too.
Yeah.
He's like a big guy.
And he got himself some rocked up.
He did
for that series. Good night.
I just gotta put my head on his body.
So maybe I don't know about, because I'm definitely not going to get through all of the Watchmen and all of the Witcher in a week, but I'm going to watch all of them, and I'll do it as quickly as I can. I'll get caught up,
and then we will come back here and converse again.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it all over again. But to close out today, I thought we could talk about and give a couple of things that we are most looking forward to in 2020 coming up, because there's
a lot in 2020.
There's a lot in 2020. But what are some of your big, most anticipated things in 2020?
Oh man, Black Widow for sure.
Black Widow's a big one.
That's probably one of my most anticipated. Let's see, Clone Wars, the new Clone Wars. That's
a good one.
That one's really cool because it's much like Young Justice. That fans were like, give us another one.
Yeah.
And they prevailed in the end. They're like, okay, we got a platform. We'll put it on Disney Plus.
That's a good one.
I know Eternals is coming out, but I know. To be honest, I wasn't really big on, not that I wasn't big, I just didn't read many Eternal stuff in the comic books and stuff like that. So obviously it's an MCU movie, I'm going to be excited. But I think the two big would be Black Widow and Clone Wars.
Yeah? Those are the two big ones?
I'm probably forgetting something that I'll be like, oh yeah, and that. But off the top of my head, those two.
Yeah, mine are going to probably fall into Marvel category as well. I have a couple of big things. I'm really looking forward to the Falcon Winter Soldier series.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to that one. I think that's just going to be a ton of fun. Mandalorian season 2.
That's a given for sure.
That's just, that's like for me, that's like, I can't wait till season 2. I just loved that show, the season 1 so much. I'm also really looking forward to Comic-Con 2020. Because I think we're going to get our first look at the Batman.
Apparently we are.
And I think that because 2021, as much as there's coming out in 2020, 2021 has a just crap ton of stuff lined up.
A lot of things are shooting right now for 2021.
Including the Batman, including new Fantastic Beasts films. There's just a lot of stuff in movies, television, comics lined up. This year there's a lot of like setup and beginnings of things like the Eternals. I am actually very excited for the Eternals because I think it's going to tell us a lot more about where the MCU is going. And we're getting Wonder Woman 84.
I knew I forgot something. Yeah, I'm very excited for that
Wonder
one.
Woman 84 this year. I'm excited to see what that might tell us about the DC cinematic universe going forward.
For sure.
But I'm also really super excited. Variant, actually, we have a lot of cool stuff lined up in 2020. A couple of potentially big things. Now, one we know for sure is going to roll out this year, which we can't talk about just yet. But we've got a second big piece that we're working on that we're hoping is going to be able to roll out later this year too. But there's a couple of big things coming out this year that I can't get into detail on that I'm actually really, really excited about. So 2020, I think, is lining up to be another fun one.
2020 is going to be a busy freaking year.
A busy year.
Yeah, that for sure. I know if we're talking, there's some stuff I've been teasing on social media too, but I didn't even mention here. But yeah, that's that. And then WandaVision. But I feel like it's so obvious, like all the stuff that I'm really excited for, because it's like obviously Winter Soldier, Falcon, Wonder Woman 84. I can't believe I forgot about that. I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah. Everyone
knows that's my favorite DC EU movie to date. So, I mean, she's freaking web swinging from freaking lightning bolts. It's so dope.
Yeah, Black Widow also is just going to be so fun.
It's the MCU's Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got other things obviously in 2020 that I'm really looking forward to, but as far as geekdom goes, I would say probably Black Widow's up there. I would have to say I'm actually more excited to see what they do with the Eternals because it's so new and different.
Right.
So I'm really excited for that one. But the two big ones for me is Mandalorian Season 2, and I'm really excited for Falcon Winter Soldier because I think that buddy cop vibe is going to be just a ton of fun.
That is going to be cool. There is one comic book event that I'm very excited for, but I can't say it because it's inside intel that I know from a friend and if I say it, that bridge will be burnt.
Yep.
But I do know of a comic book publisher is having a really big event this year.
Yep.
That everyone's gonna freak when they're like, they're doing that.
Yeah, we learned about that a while ago, and we cannot say it.
So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
When
you all find out, we'll talk about it.
That does everyone listening no good, but that.
Yeah, so there is some really cool stuff coming up in 2020. I'm excited. We had a great 2019 here on the show. Again, always thanks to you guys. But 2020, we've got, I'm kind of excited about 2020 because I've been working very hard. We've been working very hard to make 2020 a kind of a year of new things.
It's definitely going to be a year of new things, for sure.
That has been a big goal for me. 2019, it was a lot of setup that I personally was working on. And 2020 is looking to be a year of a lot of change and a lot of new things, growth. So I'm really looking forward to the year to come.
For sure. I think we say it every year, but I think this, like, undoubtedly more than anything is going to be the biggest year ever, especially, if all the ducks line up that we have planned and they pull through, it's going to be freaking solid.
It's going to be a really, really, really fun year here for Variant, just across the board. And we're really excited to share all of it with you guys. So stick with us if you will.
Yes.
But other than that,
we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.